Sugar cravings on a carnivore diet. Is it still an issue for you? Hey, what's shaking bacon? My name is Bruno Panucci. I hope you're doing well. So I have an interesting history with sugar cravings on a carnivore diet. But before we get into that, I want to ask you if you could like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. So dealing with sugar cravings on a carnivore diet is something I have a lot of experience with. I learned a long time ago I'm an abstainer, not a moderator. Well, what's that? Well, someone who just can't touch carbohydrates in any way because it's a slippery slope. That's an abstainer. A moderator is someone who can have a little bite here or there, or maybe even a meal here or there that's not on a carnivore diet, and it doesn't throw them off the wagon. They can have it and they're satisfied. So they're pretty strict carnivore, but not crazy strict. I have to be 100% strict without a lick, taste, or bite of anything off of a carnivore diet. So the reason why I do that is because of sugar cravings. Doing a carnivore diet keeps sugar cravings completely away. I don't have to deal with them at all. It's a wonderful place to be. It's a small sacrifice for food because there's certain foods I just don't eat. A lot of foods I don't eat, in fact. But it's worth it because it's opened up a whole bunch of freedom in other areas of my life. I feel dramatically better. The inflammation in my body seems to be managed and I'm losing weight. All my health problems have abated. The few that are left, because that's a bit of an exaggeration, I still have a couple of health problems, one of which is still obesity, and I'm still losing weight. So everything's still going in a proper direction when it comes to the weight loss and all my health problems going into remission. So all's good. And that's because I don't have any sweet flavors or any foods of any kind that are sweet in my diet, even if it's a sugar substitute, because I can guarantee if you deal with sugar carbohydrate addiction, having sugar substitutes is going to make this a much more difficult road for you when you're trying to keep to a carnivore lifestyle. Even if you're trying to do keto, it's keeping those sugar cravings alive, and you're always going to be going on and off that way of eating. You're going to have lots of cheat days and treat days. And what happens when you incorporate those into your diet on purpose or by accident is it holds you back from getting all the benefits when you knock carbohydrates and sugar completely out of your diet. So even when you're keeping these sugar substitutes in your diet, what's happening is you're going to crave those foods and you're going to slip up. Most people will anyway. They'll slip up. It'll take an incredible amount of willpower to go a long window of time. Kelly Hogan talked quite often about how she went 5 years zero carb, but still had Diet Dr. Pepper in her diet. And it was 5 years of torture. That was before she became a carnivore, and she's almost a 14-year carnivore now. So if you are an abstainer, that's the kind of mentality you're working with. So you want to try and keep sugar cravings at bay. There's lots of different ways to do that. My recommendation, though it might be a bit of a more uphill battle for you to just go completely 100% cold turkey away from it all, the first week is going to be difficult. Second week, not nearly as bad. And after that, you're really just breaking up with the habit of eating junk foods. Special occasions come along and you want to try and stay away from junk food and carbohydrates on those special occasions, because that's when you slip up. It's the, well, what's one bite or what's one meal going to do? And what happens is if you have that addictive personality or that addiction with carbohydrates being breads, pastas, junk food, sugary foods, that one time is almost like being an alcoholic. And you don't hear about alcoholics that go, well, what's one drink? Because that one drink will often help them to slip right back into their old addictive behavior. So an addiction is an addiction. It doesn't matter if it's to cigarettes, it doesn't matter if it's to alcohol, and it doesn't matter if it's with carbohydrates and sugar. If you can't manage something small every day and not crave it all day, like carbohydrates or one cigarette, then there might be a problem that you have to address that maybe is bigger than you realize. And that could be your addiction. In this case, an addiction to sugar. The cravings won't go away until you knock it out completely. So the difficult part after the first couple of weeks is up is the next few months when you trick yourself, when you think it's going to be okay to do that little bit of a cheat or treat because you think, oh, it's a special occasion, or you think, oh, what's this one time? I'm hungry and that looks pretty good. I'll just have a little bit. That little bit turns into a little bit more. So that's often something people are susceptible to easily within the first 6 months of doing a strict carnivore diet. I've even read about carnivores in different Facebook groups that have said that they've been strict carnivore for 2 years, 2.5, 3 years or more, and they slipped up once and it's been 6 months and they put on a bunch of weight and they haven't been able to get strict again. That's what it's like for some people. And you won't know unless you put yourself through it numerous times. Otherwise, you won't have an appreciation for it. Not everyone can just make that decision to cut it out and not look back. It's pretty easy for some people, but other people, you have to slip up, unfortunately, a few times before you learn that you just can't manage those foods simply because the cravings are too intense. And it happened to me. Don't get me wrong. I was no stranger to this. I did this a lot to myself. You get an overdeveloped sense of comfort and also security in the fact that, no, I got this. And really, you don't. What happens is maybe the first time or the first few times you think, I've been able to manage this. This is okay. And if you had a serious addictive problem before, that's not going to go away. It's probably something you're going to carry with you the rest of your life. Or you might have to go years being strict carnivore, and you might be able to introduce something, some sugar, maybe once a month or something like that. You'll find your own sweet spot if that's something you ever want to try and do. Personally, I've already gone down that road and I know what my sweet spot is, and it's maybe junk food once a month. And after that, it's too slippery of a slope. And so I'm not even going to risk that once a month because the cravings come back too much. Sugar cravings are a real thing. And if you talk to lots of people out there in the world about a carnivore diet, the one thing they say is, oh, I can never give up my bread, or I can never give up my pasta, or I can never give up my wine or my beer or whatever it is. And they're pretty open about it. But at the same time, they're not really admitting they have an addiction. They're admitting they have an addiction, but they're not really admitting the depth of the addiction. And they don't want to give those things up, even if it's going to help them to feel better, even if it's going to help them to manage their health problems and their pathologies so they don't have to deal with them anymore. They're still like, nah, it's just not worth it for me. People often have to get to a point when dealing with sugar and carbohydrate cravings that their health problems get serious enough that they have to have a bit of a wake-up call. I've been there. Lots of you people out there have been there. And some people are still kind of going through this, and it's not an easy thing to go through. I went through it for years before I realized how bad it was, and I finally corrected that problem. One of the surefire ways I find to keep that problem at bay, to help keep sugar and carbohydrate cravings away, is just staying full. Stay full on nice red fatty meat. Stay comfortably full all through the day. Even when you're not hungry, if you know you're going to a social event later, or you're going to kind of go into a grocery store where you might get some junk food or something like that, make sure you eat before you go in there. When you're fully satisfied, those things aren't going to tempt you pretty much at all. And when you're fully satiated, you're not going to have those cravings. They're going to be minimized to an amount that really is a non-issue. Another thing you might want to try and implement is putting a little pinch of salt. Sometimes you can get little salt packets at fast food restaurants, and put a little pinch of salt on your tongue and take that. Take a bit of water afterwards. Maybe just balancing out your electrolytes a little bit will help manage those sugar cravings. Some people might be worried about eating more food doing a carnivore diet, but you have to keep in mind that food, even if they're like worried about putting on weight, the big picture is it's more important you stick to carnivore, because that weight will eventually come off just because you're doing a carnivore diet. So there's a big picture to look at, and sometimes you might have to take a step back to move forward. Most people just lose weight. The vast majority of people who try a carnivore way of eating just lose weight. Only some people put weight on temporarily and then lose it. And that kind of shows your body had some healing to do. Maybe you needed to absorb lots of those nutrients and get your metabolism up to a certain pace so that at one point it could just help you burn all that weight off really fast. And typically when you start losing weight, for those few people who go through this, it goes away pretty fast afterwards. Another thing you can implement is just distracting yourself. I used to do it with a nap if I wasn't feeling good, or like I was getting a headache from sugar or carbohydrate withdrawal, or I just had a craving. Sometimes a nap is just like a reset button, and that's something you can implement, or just distract yourself with a hobby, ideally something that's upbuilding that will keep you engaged. So a puzzle might not do it. I recommend getting out, going for a walk, going to the gym, doing something active, physically active, to help get that craving out of your system. Anyway, try and keep these ideas in mind. Sugar cravings are something that's real, and you need to find a way to manage them. And managing them is going to help keep you consistent on carnivore. Keeping consistent on carnivore is going to help all your health problems go away, and it's going to help you to feel better. The one thing most people say when they start a carnivore diet is they feel younger. So keep that in mind. I really appreciate you watching this video. Please give it a like, comment, and subscribe. Really appreciate that. Thanks.